Some time ago, I made a video about how switching lenses changed my photography. How I went from a basic kit lens to primes to the 50mm, the 85mm, and eventually to wider focal lengths. And in many ways, it was absolutely true. Each lens taught me something quite different. But after years of going through different lenses, I realized something much deeper. The greatest change was never the lens. It was me. And to explain that, I think we need to go back to the beginning. When we start with photography, when we first grab a camera, we become its users. A camera and a lens are simply tools. We press a button and they take a photo. And as they are users, we snap away to capture our favorite moments. I think it takes time and probably a lifelong journey before we understand what being a photographer actually is. When we begin, it is only natural to think that a better camera and a better lens will lead to nicer photos. But that way of thinking is what separates a camera user from a photographer, from someone who truly sees. And that is why I believe focusing on what each lens, its focal length can do is one of the best ways to grow in photography. Because navigating through prime lenses can actually become a path to growth, not only as a photographer, but also as a person. As I journeyed through the different focal lengths, I felt like each one was bringing a different part of myself into the right place. In a sense, it was like every different focal length was creating a different piece of the puzzle that when I put them all together, I started seeing a clearer picture of who I was as a photographer. The 50mm helped me to develop balance. It helped me to get through the door and have a small bite of all the different things photography had to offer. The 85mm found or created the piece of drama, of looking deeper into the eyes of others and by extension looking deeper into myself. The 35mm taught me how important stories are and how to look at the whole instead of the part. And now the 28mm is teaching me how to be bold, how to get close to those I don't know, and how to slowly become a more wholesome, more sociable version of myself. In many ways, my journey through focal lengths has also been a journey from distance towards connection. And nowhere did I feel that more clearly than in the way I changed through its focal length. By nature, I'm an introvert. I can sit in a room, many times this room, for many hours or even days, just thinking, writing, listening to music or editing photos. And I think my journey from bigger cities like Edinburgh and Manchester to smaller ones like Leicester and Cambridge reflects exactly that. Even the fact that I started with a 50mm lens and then quickly moved to the 85mm says a lot. I used to feel that I needed the distance on the streets. Staying further away and photographing people with the 85mm created a kind of pseudo armor between me and the world. And funny enough, the results from the 85mm often reflected how I saw others, large in the frame, dramatic figures. As an introvert, I think sometimes I build up people in my mind, and the 85mm translated that feeling directly into my photos. But the 85mm also tapped into something else, my tendency to look for simple moments and focus on them, because the world is big and complicated. And many introverts find comfort into the beauty of simpler things. But as I grew older and worked with myself a bit, I started opening up and getting a little closer, allowing a little more complexity and chaos to slip through the cracks of that armor, allowing myself to experience a little bit more than just a figure and a background. The transition back to the 50mm helped me with that. And then I found that once you allow some chaos in, more will follow. Pretty much like a flowing river, slowly breaking an old dam and allowing for the water to move freely. That is the 35mm and by extension the 28mm for me. When I entered this wider focal length space, chaos felt overwhelming, but also irresistible. I was drawn to those layered, more complex compositions and I wanted them for myself. And for that I had to sacrifice a part of who I was. Or maybe, better said, I had to evolve who I was. To move from a natural introvert to a more extroverted version of myself. From someone who feared chaos and held tightly to control, like a child who's holding their mother's hand, to someone ready to embrace not knowing what is about to happen. So in the end, it was never really about what the lens could do. It was about the person its lens asked me to become. And I think this is why, after all of these years, I care about lenses differently now. I still appreciate them, I also love a nice piece of gear, I still find inspiration in what different focal lengths can offer, but I no longer look at lenses as solutions to problems. I no longer expect that if I use lens A or lens B, I will automatically get a better photo. I look at lenses as invitations, as a way to create more intentionally. If I want to magnify to make things look big and important, I will use an 85mm. If I want some versatility, if I want to keep some of that drama in, but also fit more into the frame, I will use a 50mm. And if I want to capture how things really are, for me at least, I will use a 35mm. Now the 28mm is a slightly different story. I think with the 28mm you can still capture life as it is, but with a little extra secret sauce, a hidden ingredient that transcends how things are into how they could feel if you could grasp everything instantly. But we will discuss that soon in a separate video. My journey through lenses has given me a clear message. It has made me understand that what I value most is freedom of creation rather than perfection. I value feeling my camera and lens not just as pieces of metal and plastic, but as an extension of how I see. And I want to be able to pre-visualize my scenes before even lifting my camera to my eye. I do not want to raise the camera to my eye and be surprised by how different things look compared to the way I perceive them. And that is why it is important to understand focal length as a way of seeing, not just as specs and sharpness. So if you are wondering which lens to buy next, maybe the better question is not which lens is best. Maybe the better question is who am I right now and who I want to become when I use it. Because lenses can absolutely change your photography. But sometimes if you stay with this craft long enough, they can also change you. What is the lens or maybe the focal length that had the most impact in your photography? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, consider subscribing with the bell, or become a member to support the work behind these films. Now, if you want to see how I use light in my photography, click and watch this video next. That was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you on the streets. Bye bye.